دوستان نهایت عزیز، بازم سلام خدمت تک تک شما از طریق چینل انگلیش کلاس. بازم به خدمت شما عزیزا. امیدوارم جور صحتمند باشین و بتونین تا آخر ویدیو با ما باشین. خب عزیزان، درسی که امروز خدمت شما تقدیم میکنم البته از یونت 28 و کتاب 4 شما بخش داستان است. کتاب 4000 Essential English Word و First Editionش. خب میریم به طرف کلاس خود. عزیزان، پیش از اینکه کلاس آغاز کنیم فراموش نکنین چینل با دوستایتان شیر کنین تا اونم سابسکرایب کنن، نظریاتشان شیر کنن و شما همچنان لطف کنین نظری دارین، پیشنهادی دارین، میتونین در آخر ویدیو با ما شیر کنین. خب میریم به طرف کلاس یونت 28 کتاب 4 بخش داستان شما.
Thucydides and the Plague of Athens.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. به نام خداوند یکتا آغاز میکنیم. Thucydides and the Plague of Athens. Thucydides و مرض طاحون.
Thucydides was the world's first historian.
Thucydides was the world's first historian. خب آقای توسیدیدیت اولین تاریخ شناس جهان بود.
Presently, we get most of our knowledge about ancient Greece from his writing.
Presently, we get most of our knowledge about ancient Greece from his writing. و در حال حاضر ما بیشتر دانش خود در مورد یونان باستان یا یونان قدیم از نوشته‌های او به دست میاریم.
But Thucydides didn't just write about history. He lived through it.
But Thucydides didn't just write about story. He lived through it. خب آقای توسیدیدیس او یعنی تنها تاریخ ننوشته بلکه در تاریخ زندگی کرده.
However, he almost didn't survive one historical event, the Plague of Athens.
However, he almost didn't survive one historical event, the Plague of Athens. خب و او با این حال تقریبا از یک رویداد یا یک واقعه تاریخی جان سالم به در نبرد، مرض طاحون. Thucydides was the world's first historian. Presently, we get most of our knowledge about ancient Greece from his writing. But Thucydides didn't just write about history. He lived through it. However, he almost didn't survive one historical event, the Plague of Athens.
In 430 BCE, an army attacked the city of Athens, where Thucydides lived.
In 430 BCE, an army attacked the city of Athens, where Thucydides lived. خب در سال 430 قبل از میلاد ارتشی به شهر آتن که توسیدیدی در اوج زندگی میکرد حمله کرد.
Thousands of people hid from the army behind Athens' large walls.
Thousands of people hid from the army behind Athens' large walls. یعنی هزاران نفر در پشت از ارتش پشت دیوارهای بزرگ آتن پنهان شدند.
The city became very crowded as the population expanded.
The city became very crowded as the population expanded. یعنی خب اینجا با افزایش جمعیت شهر بسیار ازدحام شد، یعنی بیروبار بیشتر شد، شلوغ شد.
Then a horrifying disease broke out.
Then a horrifying disease broke out. و بعد یک مرض بسیار خطرناک پیدا شد.
People summoned doctors.
People summoned doctors. مردم دکتر می‌خواستند.
But it was to no avail.
But it was to no avail. اما بیفایده بود.
Because no one understood how the disease spread.
Because no one understood how the disease spread. به خاطر که هیچ کس متوجه نشد که این مرض چطور پخش شد.
It seemed random. They didn't know that.
It seemed random. او قسم تصادفی به نظر می رسید.
It was an organism.
They didn't know that it was an organism. خب اونا حتی نمی‌فهمیدن که این یک ارگانیسم است.
Instead, they defined disease as a punishment from their gods.
Instead, they define disease as a punishment from their God. اما در عوض اونها بیماری را به عنوان مجازات از طرف خدایانشان میدانستند.
Thucydides was incredulous that gods caused the plague.
Thucydides was incredulous that gods caused the plague. خب اینجا یعنی خود توسیدیدید باور نداشت که خدایان طاعون را ایجاد کرده، اما توضیح داد که چرا.
But he explained why others believed it.
اما تشریح کرد که مثلا چرا دیگرها ای را باور میکنه.
Instead, they defined disease as a punishment from their gods.
در عوض اونها بیماری را به عنوان مجازات از جانب خدایان خودشان تعریف میکردند.
Thucydides was incredulous that gods caused the plague, but he explained why others believed it.
Thucydides was incredulous that gods caused the plague, but he explained why others believed it. خب اما توسیدیدیت باور نداشت که خدایان طاعون را مرض طاعون را ایجاد کنه، اما او توضیح داد یا تشریح کرد که چرا دیگرها به اعتقاد یعنی به او اعتقاد دارن، یعنی چرا باور میکنن. There was an old long verse which predicted that disease. خب اینجا یعنی یک آیه قدیمی یا طولانی وجود داشت که بیماری را پیش بینی میکرد.
To paraphrase it, the verse said the gods would send a disease during a war.
To paraphrase it, the verse said the gods would send a disease during a war. خب برای تفسیر این آیه میگه که خدایان در طول جنگ بیماری را ارسال میکنه.
As a result, large crowds gathered at shrines to ask the gods to stop the plague.
As a result, a large crowd gathered at the shrines to ask the gods to stop the plague. خب در نتیجه یعنی جمعیت زیاده اینا در مو زیارتگاه یک جا شدن تا اینکه از خدایانشان بخواهند که مرض طاعون متوقف کنه.
But the situation only worsened because these people were so close to each other, they became sick.
But the situation only worsened because these people were so close to each other, they became sick. خب یعنی شرایط یا وضعیت خرابتر شده میرفت به خاطر که مردم به هم نزدیک بودن و از همین خاطر اینا مریض می شدن.
That's how they learned a fundamental lesson about the plague.
That's how they learned a fundamental lesson about the plague. خب امی بود که اینا یک درس اساسی درباره طاعون آموختن.
It spread from person to person.
It spread from person to person. یعنی این سرایت میکنه از فرد به فرد دیگه. But the situation only worsened because these people were so close to each other, they became sick. That's how they learned a fundamental lesson about the plague. It spread from person to person.
Wanted to leave the crowded city, but
People wanted to leave the crowded city. مردم میخواستن که می شهر شلوغ ترک کنن، شهری که زحام است او را میخواستن ترک کنن.
they dreaded what the army outside would do to them. اما اونا ترس داشتن که مردم از ارتشی که در بیرون بود با آنها چی کار خواهد کرد. At this time, Thucydides got sick too.
و در همین حال بود که آقای توسیدیدیس همچنان دچار همین مرضی شد.
He quickly scribbled down notes because he thought he would soon die.
خب او به سرعت یادداشت‌ها را یادداشت کرد به خاطر فکر میکرد که او بسیار زود از بین میره و میمیره.
His writing shows a stark contrast between people's behavior before and during the plague.
His writing shows a stark contrast between people behavior before and during the plague و امی نوشته های از او تضاد بین مردم رفتار مردم قبل از مرض طاعون و بعد از مرض طاعون نشان میداد. There were riots. خب شورش ها شروع شد.
People ignored laws.
People ignored laws. مردم قانون نادیده می گرفتن.
They didn't think they'd live long enough to be punished.
They didn't think they'd live long enough to be punished. اونا اینه فکر نمی کردن که یعنی اوقدر عمر کنن که مجازات شون.
Many sick people were left to die in solitude because no one wanted to be near them.
Many sick people were left to die in solitude because no one wanted to be near them. خب بسیاری از مردم یعنی از افراد بیمار رها میکردن تا در تنهایی بمیرن بخاطر که هیچ کس نمیخواست نزدیک از اونا باشه.
The plague lingered for 2 years, but luckily Thucydides survived.
The plague lingered for 2 years. خب امی طاعون مرض طاعون تا 2 سال ادامه پیدا کرد. But luckily Thucydides survived. اما خوشبختانه آقای توسیدیدیس چی کرد؟ اینه نجات یافت و زنده ماند.
Without his writing, we would know much less about ancient Greece and the plague of Athens.
Without his writing, we would know much less about ancient Greece and the plague of Athens. خب بدون نوشته های او ما خیلی کمتر در مورد یونان باستان و طاعون آتن میفهمیم. They didn't think they'd live long enough to be punished. Many sick people were left to die in solitude because no one wanted to be near them. The plague lingered for 2 years, but likely Thucydides survived. Without his writing, we would know much less about ancient Greece and the plague of Athens. خب عزیزایم این بود درس امروز شما که از یونت 28 بود خدمت شما تقدیم کردم. امیدوارم درس مورد علاقه شما قرار گرفته باشه. تا درس بعدی که بازم به خدمت شما عزیزان می باشم شما رو به خداوند یکتا میسپارم. روز همه شما خوش. خداوند یار و مددگارتان.